2019 was a pretty meh year in gaming. Don't get me wrong, there were some good releases, but for the most part, if you ask me what came out last year, the only things I would come up would be the ones that I hated straight away. So, but for me personally, my year of gaming, the games that I played from other years, there was some stuff I was catching up on from 2018. There were older releases that I'd either never heard of or had just never gotten around to buying. I actually got a lot of good gaming, a lot of fun out of the things that I played. So much so that I managed to get 10 for this list. So, without any, it's taken me a whole year to finally get here. So, without any further hesitation, here are my top 10 games that I actually played, not necessarily that were released, the ones that I played in 2019. Starting out with, I mean, technically it's an 11 list because this had to be a joint position between Hitman Go and Lara Croft Go. These were really interesting little titles, really short, unless you get stuck on a puzzle. They're like these little puppets on a board, little figures that you have to move. You get like one move at a time, and then the enemy moves. I'm sure there's an actual word for this type of style of uh, uh, board game kind of thing. But I really enjoyed the novelty of the strategy that you had to put in. I was torn between which one to put on this list because I enjoyed Hitman Go a lot more just for the puzzles and the stealth involved, and what you had to do to get to your target. But I really like the environments, and although the two titles are very similar, um, they felt different enough where I could go, different mechanics and, like I say, the different areas and stuff, like the different aesthetics kind of thing. Um, I just really enjoyed these games. I enjoyed the puzzles. Uh, there's not much to say about them. There's not really much any story involved or anything like that. But I enjoyed the puzzles, and I just enjoyed, like I say, I enjoyed the novelty of the gameplay. So, if you like what you see on the screen or intrigued, I highly recommend checking them out. And number nine, no, is A Hat in Time. This is one that I'd been wanting to get around to for quite some time. I'd heard really good things about it. I kept going, no, I really want to check that out. But it was always so expensive on the store. And I'm not saying that it's not worth the money, but when it's an unknown entity, and especially something like this where it's a very old school platforming adventure game, and you don't know what you're getting into, putting down 25 quid on a indie title essentially that you is an unknown entity, it's a bit of a big risk. So yeah, I put it off. And to be honest, I wish I did. It was still like 16, £17 or something when I bought it. I could be wrong. Again, it's been 18 months. But and as I said, my memory is not what it used to be. But um, I put down the money because I really wanted to give it a try, and I don't regret it whatsoever. Like I say, it's a very old school N64 style adventure game with these open world areas, Clocktown and that. My favourite area, although I struggled a bit with it, has to be like the graveyard. The boss in that, whoever the voice actor that does the voice of the boss in the graveyard area, amazing. He's pulling his best Tim Curry impression. It's hilarious. The rest of the voice acting in the game can be annoying, can be good, can be. There's this friend that you meet, Hat Girl meets, and she's got this really annoying British accent, more annoying than mine. No, it was fun. There was something very like cartoon, like Saturday morning cartoons about it. I just really enjoyed it. In fact, made me excessively nostalgic. And we don't get these kind of games outside of Nintendo and the Mario titles. So it was so. I just found it highly enjoyable. Some of the trophies got a little tedious. But otherwise, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the worlds that you visited. So yeah, no, if if you get a chance and you like this kind of fun, very vibrant colors, good fun music, just everything about this, and especially like if you've got kids, it's the kind of thing I can imagine being fun to play with them. It's got a very adult double entendre sense of humor at times, but otherwise, I had a lot of fun. I showed it to Malcolm, and I think Malcolm was a bit, yeah. But once you get sucked into that world, it may seem like that at first. And I think that's the thing when you watch the trailers, you just get this a certain impression of it. You're like, I don't know. But once you start playing and you've been playing for a while, you get sucked so far into that and the abilities and stuff like that. And there are a couple of mechanics like in these certain stealth sections where you have to avoid being detected. Sometimes it can be a little finicky. The camera got a little annoying at times, but I think it was playing into. I think it was done on purpose to play into that kind of old school style gaming. But no, if you enjoy these kind of classic platforming experiences, the kind of Crocs and Raymans kind of thing, I definitely highly recommend A Hat in Time. But you go from a nice brightly coloured game to at number 8, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. So, okay, this one is going to be difficult to talk about because it's a walking simulator. Um, but I don't want to give too much away about the story because I got to the end of this and I was in tears. And it's rare unless it's a really deeply engaging game. It's very rare for me to get to that point. Except for last day of June recently that I played, I was bawling, and that was like a 2 hour experience. But anyway, um, the Vanishing of Ethan Carter. You are playing this like investigator, and you go around and you have to find these little rips, like tears in reality, if you will. And that could be a spoiler all of its own. But you find these like tears of reality, and you have to piece together these different cases. I think there's like 5 or 6 cases uh, that are based in this town that lead to finding out what has happened to this young boy, Ethan Carter, who's disappeared. And you're learning about the different people in the town. But at the end, you're not sure how real this all is. Um, because, like I say, stuff gets found out, revealed, and you're like, oh. There are a couple of odd things in here, a couple of odd investigations for trophies that you're like, is this an Easter egg that I should know or what? Like the diver in the water, or the astronaut. The astronaut one was a really good story actually. I found that purely by accident. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed. So it's not always intuitive, like the cases, like when you have to put in order the events of the that particular case. Uh, but it is fun to try and figure it out, and like I say, learn about this town and these people. Uh, but if you go into this expecting like a happy ending or that, I hate to break it to you. This one, like I say, I was just sat there when the twist came at the end. I was sat there going, ooh, 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 okay. And I know I started out, and you probably turned off as soon as I said it's a walking simulator. And I know that has bad connotations, and we have a couple of those on the worst of 2019 list. Walking simulators for me, I'm not so worried if, say, like this one, where the story is engaging and you're fully invested in what's going on. Unfortunately, you get games, other ones where it just doesn't hit with me. Like I say, Gone Home, everybody loved, and I get why they loved it, but it just didn't do it for me. To this day, I talk about Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and I say, you know what? I didn't think much of it, other than the graphics, but it stuck with me afterwards. And this is what The Vanishing of Ethan Carter did really well. To this day, 18 months later, I think about how I felt at the end of that game, and I was just drained. I was so invested. Anybody that knows me knows I love good story games, ones that I just feel engrossed in and invested in, and that's what I felt for this game. So I highly recommend, if you don't mind giving a walking simulator a try, I really do highly recommend. It's not a long game. It's average, what, 4 hours or so. It's not a long game. It's definitely worth checking out. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. At number 7, we have a little bit of an oddity. It's Beat Saber. I know, it's shallow. It's a VR title, and all it is a rhythm game where you hit blocks with sabers. But it's a river game where you hit things with sabers. It's amazing. I love it so much. It's so much fun. Unfortunately, the downside is I feel like there's not enough songs for it, which I know sounds silly. We've just recently had the Linkin Park and Green Day expansion packs. But I think it is silly when you get, say, a Panic at the Disco pack, and it literally has all of 5 songs. That was all that was on that pack. I'm not really into Panic at the Disco, but I thought they could have summoned up a few more songs than that. But the base game songs I really enjoy. There's a lot of songs here that I would not normally personally listen to, but because you get so invested in learning the rhythms and stuff while playing the game, they get really like earworm kind of thing. You really get into them. So this was a really good game. It works really well on the PSVR, which is how I played it. Again, the one thing I do lament is that the PC version, I'm aware, has mods where you can get pretty much any song at this point. And I hate that mods aren't available on the PlayStation. But it's a lot of fun, and I know it seems really, really weird to put it this high up in the list. It should have probably been at number 10 or something. But I've put so much time, so many hours into that game. And as a physically disabled person, to spend so much time working out with that thing, it is addictive. It is fun. And, that's what a good game is. It's fun. And this was fun with a capital F. So there's not much to say about it. Highly recommend if you enjoy rhythm games, if you want something different, if you've got a PSVR, definitely check out Beat Saber. But then at number 6, we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And this is one I was kind of torn on its placement. Part of me actually at one point wanted to say it was a little disappointing, because the biggest problem with this game, it went from like literally, I put it like second on the list, I think, at one point. But actually, my biggest gripes with this game is it rips off a lot of other. It's not original in any way. This owes so much to the likes of Uncharted and Dark Souls. And it wears its inspirations on its sleeve. It doesn't even try to hide it at points. When you have meditation circles ripping off, the bonfires from Dark Souls, or some of the platforming, levels and stuff, and wall runs and stuff like that, it can feel a bit too derivative, and you're just like, I've played this game before. And also, I do have Cameron Monaghan, who plays the protagonist Cal Kestis. I found him amazing and enthralling in Gotham as this kind of Joker that's not Joker character. Um, but I found him a little too flat at times in this game. It's not that he was bad at doing it. I think a lot of it is how he was directed or the writing. But yeah, I found him a little flat at times and a little irritating in that way. But on the flip side, I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the characters' interactions with each other. And I really enjoyed the story. It's a little cliched. It happens between episode 3 and 4 of the main Star Wars games. It's an in canon game. And it's just after Order 66 has been, done, and a lot of the Jedi's have been wiped out. So you've got Cal as this kind of, uh, he again it falls into that trope of amnesia where he has to relearn all his skills, and you're just like, oh my god. But there is I don't know, even the reason at the end that you find out, you're like, really? That's what this whole time? Because there's other times where it feels like he does remember what happened, and you're like, and I get that it's like this kind of PTSD trauma, and all the other stuff that was done to him that has made him forget or whatever. But I don't want to. I'm actually making that up as I go along. I don't want to give away spoilers for the twist ending, but because like I say, you find out stuff at the end, and you're like, oh, okay. But the thing is, I really enjoyed the story. I really as frustrating as it can be at times, I enjoyed Cal's discovery of these new skills and these essential tutorials on how to use these new force powers. It was nice to see the extended universe from Star Wars, like stuff like Clone Wars and comics and books and stuff like that, come into this. Respawn, who developed this, who of course made Titanfall, which I'm a big fan of. And I feel like a lot of the stuff, like the wall running and that, was very evocative of their other title. Um, and it works so well. The wall running in this game is so fun and fluid. Uh, and I think that's what made it more fun in a way than, say, Uncharted, just the movement types kind of thing. No matter how much it rips off Uncharted, there were little things here and there that made it feel more expanded, kind of moveset wise. But yeah, I know I've done nothing but complain about this game, and this is why I was so torn on where to put it. But I was exceptionally engaged in this story, invested in the outcome at the end, and like I say, the mechanics and gameplay of fighting with sabers was so much fun. I highly recommend though that you play this on the hardest difficulty. But I played it on the hardest difficulty and found it fully, just a lot of fun. Whereas when I played it on easy difficulty, it was nowhere near as good. Uh, I enjoyed all the. There's only like 4 planets that you go to, which is a little disappointing. It would have been nice to do more. Um, but for a base game, it was a decent story, decent gameplay, and fun characters. I feel so mixed about this one, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my experience. So if you're looking for a good Star Wars game, have been disappointed with stuff like Battlefront more recently, which I definitely was. I was not a big fan of the Battlefront games at all. This was a nice surprise. So yeah, I highly recommend as well. A single player game that doesn't rely on a multiplayer section. I highly recommend it. Give more attention to these single player games, EA. It seems like they've learned, seeing as, it looks like Jedi Fallen Order 2 is in the works. Hopefully they'll learn and realise, they were so eager to say that single player games are dead. And they definitely are not. So, yeah, highly recommend this one. Definitely go check it out. Oh, this one's going to be controversial because at number 5, we've got Death Stranding. Okay, so I I will admit, I went into this one with kind of high hopes. Big fan of Hideo Kojima. Really frustrated with Konami for being the morons they are for doing what they did by booting him out over Metal Gear Solid. Was not a fan of Metal Gear Solid 5, as I've said before, but I think a lot of the background stuff is probably what affected that in the end. Especially the fact that it essentially has no decent ending. But moving on from that, so Death Stranding was Hideo Kojima's first game away from Konami. He'd set up his own Kojima Productions, and this was his first game IP. We didn't know the whole time up until release. We had no idea what this game was about. We had all these little snippets of, Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen, the three main actors in this game. We had little snippets, but we had no idea what was going on. There was so much weirdness. It was insane. But I was excited for this game. I will not deny that. So but I can understand there were people that were a lot more hyped than I was, who were exceptionally disappointed with this game because I think they wanted it to be more than it actually was. And essentially, yes, I mean it is. It's a walking simulator kind of resource balancing kind of package delivery game. And that sounds like absolute torture, I know. But I spent so much time in this game. I'm not even kidding. I spent about 100 hours, over 100 hours, I think. I'll put it up on the screen. I don't remember off the top of my head. I spent so much time in this game. I just found it addictive. It scratched that OCD tendency that I have to just get the package and deliver it to its destination. There's obviously a lot of story in between. It gets really self-righteous, but I really enjoyed the story. I won't deny. I know the cutscenes are exceptionally long, not necessarily well acted. We have stupid character names like Deadman and Die Hardman and stuff like that. But we are talking about the creator who brought us characters like Lazy, the stupid names in the Metal Gear Solid games. So, especially when you look for all the different grunts and that you have turn up at your mother base. He just takes one word and then takes another word and smooshes them together. um, but I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. The reveal that I had figured out before doesn't get revealed to you until literally the last second of the game, and that I found annoying. There is other stuff that is revealed where you're just like, that makes no sense. There are a lot of plot holes here, and there is a lot of stuff that repeats itself over and over again in this going round and round in sorry, not the microphone. Going round and round in circles kind of way where you're like, oh my god, just move on from this point and get to something else. But I think it tries to do too much, and then doesn't know where to go with that. I didn't so you go to these communities, you deliver them to them, but you never meet an actual person. Like, they're all these holographs. And you're like, why? Just come out in the fucking bunker, dude. What is your issue? Stop standing in front of the camera. But I really enjoy as well the social aspect to this game. So you are trapped in this world, this very beautiful world, which is supposed to be America, but is essentially Iceland. There's no real, except for one area, there are no buildings anywhere or that. And I will say that area where there are the buildings, that was fucking creepy. That was amazing from an atmosphere standpoint. But the rest of it is just all landscape. that you're trying to get across while trying to avoid the spooky ghosts monsters. Um, and I just I I I love the what I was getting to. Sorry, my brain went blank. Like I say, um, I love the social aspects where so you're in this isolated area, and um, but people elsewhere playing the game, if they build a structure, it will appear in your world. So you're all working to make things accessible to each other. Now, you don't know who you're going to end up, whose structures will end up in your world, whose like I put up structures in places where nobody had put one, and I never got a single vote. Fucking assholes. So I don't know if maybe my structures weren't turning up in other people's worlds or what. Because then you would play it another time and you would get so many of the same. You would get like the ropes, like literally like five of them together along the same cliff, and you're just like, okay, dude, I get it. But I think that was an interesting. It's a multiplayer game where you're not actually talking to other people, and it promotes kindness. I mean, there are some trolls that put trolly things in stupid places, warnings or go this way or instructions and that then it turned out they were fucking liars. But it tries to promote kindness, and it might not always work, but I think it's a really good sentiment and something we need, especially in this day and age. So yeah, I found it really engaging. I really enjoyed the story, as problematic as it was. Troy Baker's character is completely pointless, and I'm sorry, Troy, but it he was. It was all a ruse, and he was just really uh, stereotypical and one note, but completely pointless at the same time. Uh, so yeah, I'm sorry. I love Troy Baker, but yeah, no, that was that was a waste of time. Um, but the rest of it, there are a lot of problems with this game. It would have been higher if there weren't. But like I say, I spent so much time in this game. I was so addicted to it essentially that I could not put it on this list. So I get why people have problems with it, and it doesn't help that you have to play through like 10 hours or so really at the beginning to get to anything remotely decent. But if you don't mind a slow burn, if you don't mind putting in the time and the effort and trying to just I the soundtrack in this game is good, but I did not like that the music only plays at certain times, and also it blocked Spotify on my PlayStation. I tried to put some music on while playing the game, and it completely refused, which sucks. So fuck you, Death Stranding. But it was really relaxing. Genuine. I told Malcolm my biggest gripe also would be the driving of the vans in the mountain area. That was the worst experience in any game I have ever had. If you ever want to see bad driving mechanics, oh yeah, Death Stranding's here for you. So you can't really use the bikes because they don't work in the snow. But the trucks that you're expected to use to shift lots of packages, they have the looseness. They just bounce. I could be driving at something, and it would just randomly bounce against a tiny stone and go across the map. That was infuriating. I got so angry in the back half of that game once you hit mountain area. But I spoke to Malcolm. Malcolm wanted to know what my experience was with the game, and I said, I can't help. I just keep playing it. It's so relaxing. I would just sit there and put some music on and just find myself completely sucked into the world. So, yeah, that's why it's here. As stupid as it is. I get why people are disappointed, and I've waffled on too much about it, but I think that's pretty much what the game's very good at doing. Yeah, Death Strand. That was my experience. It took up so much time of my year playing it. Next up, though, is another very odd title to put on a list like this. It's Five Nights at Freddy's VR. And I know I should be ashamed, especially after just putting Death Stranding on this list. But this is a really good game, and I have to give them kudos where it's deserved. As annoying as, say, the franchise itself has possibly become, as like just ever present and stuff like that. People just groan when they hear the name now, and don't get me wrong, I'm one of those people. When you get told, oh, there's security breach or whatever now coming out, you're like, oh my god, seriously, another one? But FNAF VR is a really good um like you essentially get to play the original like four games in VR. And they are really well represented, especially games that I didn't necessarily enjoy before, like FNAF 3. Um, number one, especially. I'm not a big fan of number one, but the VR version of it was so much fun and so terrifying. I was genuinely. FNAF 2 was stressful as all hell. But again, I really enjoyed. I love going from button to button and flashing down the hallway and stuff like that. FNAF 3, you essentially could glitch out by keeping Springtrap in that one area. And I think that's pretty much the thing everybody doesn't do on the original game as well. But yeah, it got a little annoying in that sense because that's all you do in that game. You just keep Springtrap at bay. And as long as you stay on that one doorway, that's it. So yeah, FNAF 3 is a little pointless, but FNAF 4 I really enjoyed. It was a little glitchy at times. It was a little finicky. But I genuinely enjoyed this game. I actually got really freaked out. And anybody that knows me or seen some of my gameplay, I'm not really that easily scared, but I genuinely got stressed over this game. But in sucked in as well. And okay, when you get to the very end of the game, that is the creepiest thing of all hell. When you go to the birthday party and fucking like William Afton when he was killing the kids, he like calls you over to this curtain. And he's like, "Hello," um, and you're like, "Hi," and you follow, and then this curtain opens, and you realize you are in the Freddy suit. You are stood there. You're trapped, and the credits roll in front of you, and you're just stood there looking around while your character's like got this microphone up, and you're a part of the fucking party time show. Um, and you can see Afton in the distance, like dancing around as Golden Bonnie, kind of waving his hands and celebrating your kill essentially. And you're like, oh, that was terrifying. I'm not even kidding. I was so uncomfortable and just like, oh. And then now, of course, you don't go into a FNAF game expecting a happy ending. But oh my god, that just creeped me out. It's not bad enough that those things are creepy anyway, but that ending genuinely chilled me to the bone. So I highly recommend. And also, of course, they had the Halloween. You know what? I love that they've regularly updated this game. They had they reskinned everything for Christmas last year, and of course we did have the paid DLC, which I was a little disgruntled about price wise, but it had really good games in it. I'm really curious if there's going to be anything this Halloween. But yeah, I just genuinely I love that they've kept on top of it. I really look forward to seeing if they're going to add any more to it. And I enjoyed the base game. And I loved all the mini games. Some of them not so much. The say stuff like fixing Bonnie and that can be a little underwhelming. But then when you get to say the Foxy ones and that, and fucking cockroaches and the Chica fixing, that was terrifying. And especially when you get to the hard, like the nightmare mode of fixing the characters mini games. That was terrifying. Especially the Freddy one. That was just awful. um, but I really enjoyed the mini games in this. And yeah, I really recommend. There was a lot of lore in this. There was a lot of good story. A lot of funny, nudge nudge, there is nothing more to this game than just this. I enjoyed collecting the coins. I enjoyed everything about this game. I don't think there was anything like, say, FNAF 3 has always been the weaker one anyway, and it was definitely the weakest point in this particular title. But otherwise, I enjoyed every minute of this game. When I finished playing, I was like, oh, but I want to keep playing. And I did actually go back through some of the nights kind of thing. And like I say, I played the Halloween DLC. So I really recommend, if you're after a good VR horror experience and you want a new way to experience the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, I really recommend FNAF VR on PlayStation VR, and I think it's on PC as well. So yeah. At number three, we have Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, brought to us by Ninja Theory, who have now been bought out by Xbox. So hopefully we might get the sequel on PlayStation. If not, I will have to play it on my Xbox. But yeah, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a really creepy, unsettling study of somebody with like schizophrenia and mental disorders kind of thing. She's trying to save her dead boyfriend's soul, and she's carrying his head around with her. And she goes through the underworld, but while she's trying to, get through all this and fight through all these monsters and that, she's dealing with the monsters in her head, and all the voices that are whispering and jeering at her and putting her down, and and if you've got your headphones on, I highly recommend playing with like surround sound headphones on while you're playing this. You'll listen. Genuinely though, creeped me out. You just hear this whispering like, "You suck. You're a failure. You'll never save him." This, that, and the other. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm such an awful person. As somebody with depression and anxiety, it really played into. It so well represented those fears and feelings and just that awful that need to fight through. And Senua is such an amazing, strong, powerful character with this debilitating mental health trouble. But she fights through regardless, and I think it's a really good inspirational game that, especially like I say, shows that people with mental health issues should not be pitied, should not be seen as crazy and lunatics or stuff like that. They should be understood and seen for the people they are and accepted for that. And I just genuinely, this game, it was a lot of fun gameplay wise. The combat mechanics I really enjoyed, but just Senua's story herself. I was much like say Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn. I felt completely like either I was with her or I was her. That was how engaged I was with the story. And just the art style on that, the world, the music, the sound design was just so good. If the top two games were not what they are, I would have probably put this at number one because I had so much fun. It is a short game. It does fall into a lot of the same. It can get a little samey at times. But I enjoyed some of the puzzles and that. And yeah, everything about this game, just like I say, gameplay wise and character wise, there's not much to say about it because I think it's definitely a game that needs to be experienced, kind of thing. That I don't want to talk too much about it, and especially because so many games I am prone to just waffle on and repeat the same stuff about, and I'm trying to get better at that, people, I promise. I'm trying, and I'm trying also to not just say the same words. And I know all I've done, take a sip every time I have said enjoy, fun, or enthralled this video. But this game is entertainment at its finest. It does not get enough praise. I know some people would say, hang on, I see this turn up on every kind of list. But I was so glad I finally played it. Again, this was a game that I was a bit dubious about playing because I'd heard good things, but it was a little expensive on the store, and I was like, I don't know, do I do it or not? But I'm so glad I did. I think it was on PC originally and took a little while to come to PlayStation. Yeah, I'm so glad that I did. Highly recommend it. And I really look forward to seeing more from in this IP. Um, but at number two, this is going to annoy people that this isn't number one. But at number two, we have got the Resident Evil 2 remake. I don't like to. I said this when I added Spyro to the 2018 list and stuff. I really don't like to put remakes, remasters, and that on these lists. I like to show games that not everybody thinks about and stuff like that. Um, but my God, Resident Evil 2 was so fresh, and took a lot for. I was a big fan of the original game. I've told this story before, but Resident Evil 2, I originally played on the PC. I played that game a lot. I'm still impressed that our PC played that game, to be honest. But I enjoyed the original a lot, so I was really dubious when I heard they were remastering it. But the atmosphere in this game is so terrifying. Again, I was so unsettled. They took so much. They took that kind of Resident Evil 4 feel, with the over the shoulder. They moved away from the. They didn't go for the first person that Resident Evil 7 did. They stuck to that over the shoulder of Resident Evil 4 that worked, but still made it feel very true to the original game's fixed camera. But of course, the standout of this is X, who is just terrifying once you trigger him. Unfortunately, and we'll get into this when we talk about, say, 2020's games, it does make anything that follows feel like a rip-off of X. And for those who experienced X in the original game, it's like, actually, he's nowhere near as bad as, say, Nemesis. But in this game, it was terrifying. Especially then when you hid in a save room and you realised you might not be as safe as you thought you were. But I really enjoyed the voice acting for Leon and Claire was good. The branching pathways, I really didn't feel like worked as completely as they did in the original. Don't get me wrong, there are still technically 4 playthroughs here. Leon A, Claire B, and so on and so on. But I felt like Claire and Leon tread very similar ground, to the point that you end up with paradoxes. You've got, Claire meeting Annette Birkin at the same time and doing essentially the same things that Leon did with Annette and stuff. And there are slight tweaks, but not enough to warrant to say, oh yeah, no, this is a complete, the other side of the story. There is no way in Claire B, say, that she should be having the interactions sorry, that Leon had. She should be elsewhere. So I felt like that didn't work anywhere near as well as it worked in the original. And considering the original was, had the technical limitations and stuff, it feels weird that they struggled to implement it in the same way. But if you can look past that and the plot holes, the gameplay, the gunplay is really fun. X is creepy. The atmosphere is so tense. There's good music, good adaptations of the original's music, and I think they hit the nail on the head, capturing that essence. To make the old game accessible to new modern players, and yet somehow modernize the franchise to keep it with the momentum that they had going from the success of Resident Evil 7. So I really recommend this. Obviously, to have, the two characters play through and that, you've got a lot of content here, a good story. The trophies are fun to get. Um, I didn't, other than the problems with the story, and there are some other minor issues, story wise and stuff, and adaptation wise, and stuff that's been taken away, not taken away, but altered, and it takes away from the original a little bit. Um, it was fun to play as Sherry, have her own little section, especially with the being such Chief Irons being such a creepy perv. That was a really tense section. I don't know what it is with games recently though that have felt this need to have you play as the child, side character kind of thing. But um, but I really, really, really recommend this. Unfortunately, they rushed to continue with the trend and failed. But for what this was at the time, this was amazing, and I highly recommend it. If you're a horror fan, if you're a classic Resi fan, uh, I was dubious and I was not disappointed. So yeah, definitely worth the second place on this list. But beating it easily, and this would have been on the 2018 list had I not been so late to play it. But it's the God of War remake, kind of remake sequel, reboot thing, from 2018. I this fucking amazing. Genuinely, I was emotionally involved. Chris Judge. Now, here's the thing: the original Kratos, I always thought sounded like Chris Judge, so I feel bad for the actor, who did the original that didn't get recast. Um, but Chris Judge was a perfect pick for this game, um, and I just really like. It's weird because Kratos in the original game is in the original like classic games, is not a character that you sympathize with. I really don't like classic Kratos. I mean, yeah, I like the gameplay, but I don't like the character. I don't sympathize with him. He just goes way off the. There's a difference between revenge or whatever and just like pure violence for violence sake. But this Kratos, he's older, he's wiser, he's still kind of a little emotionally stunted, in that same kind of classic way. But you see that there's reasons for him being guarded, and it's interesting you experiencing this story and opening up and seeing his grief. And seriously, I didn't notice fucking his wife, but it was amazing. In this game, just her, the aftermath of her dying, and I mean, everybody jokes about boy, but the relationship between Kratos and Atreus is just, it's amazing. Atreus can be a little annoying, but it's really well done. The boy that acts, the actor is really good, and doesn't. It's difficult with child actors; they can start to get a little tedious and one note and annoying. But I never felt that. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times this kid, not the actor, but Atreus is so petulant and annoying, and I want to slap him upside the head. But that's the point of the character. That's, it's a point of this character's arc kind of thing. So, and, to see him go through those steps and Kratos kind of experience that with him is just really, really interesting. and heartbreaking, and I love, the Norse mythology that's involved here. Um, Balder is a really interesting. He's not just a villain; he's a really deep villain. And actually, at one point, I was like, "Well, I feel really bad for him. Why am I feeling bad for the bad guy?" So that was really fun, really interesting to not just have this one note antagonist, that you actually do go, wow, he had a really shitty hand dealt him, kind of thing. So yeah, I felt like the bad and good sides of the thing were, I just really enjoyed. I do hate though that on the I don't know if they were planning to have DLC or something, but there's an extra area on the map, on the teleportation thing, that you never ever access, and I'm like, why? And I think Asgard's on there as well. But yeah, fuck like Muspelheim and Niflheim. They're just there are really annoying areas, but otherwise, everywhere that you visit is interesting, different in its own way. I love the open area, uh, with the serpent and stuff. Um, I really enjoyed all the characters, all the acting, all the. I love the modernization of the combat system. To take away, and when you get, oh my god, there's a moment. I'm sorry, spoilers, but there's a moment later in the game where you get back the Chains of Chaos, and the classic theme kicks in, and the nostalgia was just amazing. And again, you've traveled through with Kratos through this story, in this new chapter in his life, through his grief and that, and it's like no matter what he does, he's doomed to return to his previous kind of old, bad shit kind of thing. Uh, and you genuinely feel like your own arms are being like attached to these chains, that you've got no escape. That was so powerful, and poignant. I genuinely went through such a roller coaster of emotions while playing this. The game's not perfect. I get the problems that some people have with it. But as an experience, this was a game that I was really dubious about playing. But this was so much fun. I enjoyed it so much. And I really look forward to a sequel whenever that happens. Um, I hope that the same team are involved. We met Chris Judge at a convention. I'd met him before. I felt bad because Donna wanted to meet. She hadn't met him yet, and I was like, at the time, hadn't played God of War, and I said, well, are you going to be doing any more? And he was like, I can't say, and I was like, but tell me, and he would not say at all. So like, there was nothing at that time. He wouldn't, like, I don't know if there was an NDA or something, but he wouldn't say anything. But I know we've now got God of War Ragnarok coming, so I'm really looking forward to that. Of course, it means I have to get PS5, but that can wait. But I really look forward to seeing what they do. And yeah, this, I cannot flaw this. It didn't go on too long. At no point was like, oh my god, are we still going in this? If anything, I got to the end and I was like, I want to do more. Give me more. And I got and oh my god, the Valkyries. Yeah, the Valkyries are a thing that exist. If you hate yourself, then go for it. I only did it for the trophies, and yeah, that was a nightmare. Especially the ones in is it Muspelheim, that the where you have to go through the mist stuff. Um, but yeah, no, just, it was a lot of fun. I really recommend it. Um, just especially like if you were a fan of the classic games, definitely check it out. It will not disappoint you. It's different enough to not be the same old thing, and I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but it's not the same as the old, but it's a modern version, and yeah, it's I just can't recommend it enough. I had to, without question, put it as my number one. But that's my list. I'm really, really sorry for anybody watching. I complained about a lot of games that I genuinely enjoyed playing. I think the problem is a lot of these games have problems that make them put them on people's disappointed lists. But for me, while they had those problems, for whatever reason, be it say like with Death Stranding where I was just addicted, um, be it whatever, I can see through I can get past those flaws. They don't hold the game back for me. And there was just enough in them to make me completely engrossed and just enthralled and fascinated and drifting off to these worlds, these really interesting and fun worlds. Please do check them out. My Also check out, of course, the worst of 2019 list. I don't know which order I'm going to upload these in. I'm recording this one first. Usually I do my worst of list first, so upload. So this might be second. So if the other one is up already, please go check that out. Check out my previous years. Well, I say check out the worst of. I mean, the games that are on it, don't go check them out because they're just tripe. But I think 2019 was the first year that there were games other than say 2018 with Hello Neighbor. 2019 was the first year that really got me pissed off and annoyed with gaming. Uh, so it's really nice to then do a list like this where I had games that just really, really engaged me. But thank you so much for watching. Please take care, stay well. Hopefully, I'll be able to do 2020's list at the end of this year, actually on time for a change. That would be a novelty, wouldn't it? But please take care, stay well, and I'll see you somewhere down the line.